Sometimes I walk into a show blind with no expectations at all, and yet somehow, I still end up disappointed. That is basically what happened when it came to the show, Conception. I didn't know the game, didn't know the characters, just thought, hey, this might be fun. Instead, I got a show that couldn't decide if it was an ecchi comedy, a parody of the harem genre, or an emotional fantasy. It tried to be all of them and then it failed at every single one. The premise is the punchline. But first, let's talk about the plot. Oh! The wrong plot. A guy gets transported to another world and is told, hey, our world is dying and we need you to make star children with these 12 girls, with one representing each zodiac sign. It's not sex, don't you worry, it is a ritual of love. Totally sacred. Then you can go out of your way and fight bosses and save the world. Okay, weird, sure, but I honestly thought that premise alone was kind of interesting. And for like 5 episodes, it plays it semi-straight. There's this effort to say, look, this is spiritual bonding. It is important to this world's culture. It's not sex, it's not just sexual fan service. But then somewhere around the halfway mark, probably, I don't know, episode 6 or 7, the show just says, haha, you know what, never mind. The tone regarding the ritual completely shifts. Suddenly it is sex. Suddenly it is just fan service. It just gives up on the one unique idea that it had to be like every other harem anime that's got the ecchi tag. And that was the first red flag. Bars. It was the moment the show stopped trying to act like the conception ritual was a meaningful bond and just turned it into Mana making non-stop sex jokes. That's when the illusion cracked. That is when the show exposed itself and things only got worse from there. Where did the budget go? Don't worry, we'll get back into the writing, but this has an effect on it as well, so we gotta talk about it first. This show has an action tag. I saw it with my own eyes. All 4 of them. So I gotta ask, where in tarnation is the action? Like, genuinely, where the heck is it? We'll see these epic build-ups, monsters of impurity threatening the world, magic systems vaguely hinted at, bosses being built up in words, the sword is drawn then cut, off-screen fade to black. The fight's over. Congratulations, now do the ritual. Oh boy, the star child is born. Now we're gonna move on to the next maiden in the next episode. The only actual fight we get, and I mean full-on front and center battle, is in the final episode, and it's somehow still underwhelming. It's kinda like going to an amusement park, right? And you're waiting all day for the main roller coaster, the main event, the big draw of the park, and then it's just a hill that you gotta slide down with your butt in order to get to the exit sign. Weirdly, the best animation in the whole Dad Blame show is the ending theme. I'm not even joking. You sit through 22 minutes of mediocrity just to get 90 seconds of animated flair. That's where the budget went. The ED. Wild. Not having those fights animated affects the stakes of the show, and since we spend so much cotton-picking time talking about those stakes, it is super noticeable to not see that reflected on screen, especially whenever the rushed relationships we'll get to later are justified by the very battles that we never got to see. The battles that are fought by our isekai hero. Itsuki, he's a character, technically. When it comes to him, he's fine. He's not annoying, he's not interesting. He's just kinda there, I guess. How do I explain this? Let's start with what I do respect about him. He never pressures the girls. Consent matters to him, and that is kinda rare in this genre. He's not some over-the-top pervert, even if the show tries to frame him that way in some of the comedy bits that are completely out of place. In fact, he's also one of the only ones who seem to treat the star children like actual kids. He wants to be there for them, be a dad, and that's wholesome. I can get behind that, right? But even with those positive traits, he doesn't change, doesn't grow, doesn't do much besides follow the formula. Bond with girl, do the ritual, get the kid, repeat. It's like he is speedrunning relationships for a side quest reward, and it doesn't feel very fulfilling past a certain point, especially when these already rushed relationships somehow get less development per character as the show goes on. In fact, 12 maidens equaled 1 missed opportunity. There are 12 girls, 1 for each zodiac. That sounds like the perfect setup for 12 unique, heartfelt arcs. 12 memorable waifus who can be shared, loved, and talked about for ages to come. 12 chances to make a mark on the anime community. So do they do it? No, they don't. What we get instead is a checklist. Introduce girl, show her defining trope like the shy one, the tsundere, the religious one, the one that's a childhood friend. You get the idea. We give her 1 dedicated episode. We bond with her, we do the ritual, we birth a kid, and then we move on. That's it. And the worst part, some of them almost feel like real people. You get 1 moment, 1 scene, 1 line where you go, oh, there might be something here, but then they never capitalize on it. Take Yuzua, she carries around her own freaking coffin. Not to be quirky, but because she doesn't want to burden anyone when she dies. And that actually hit. It resonated with me. It reminded me of what it feels like to see yourself as a burden in life, and because of that you feel like even in death you will continue to be the same thing you were as you breathed air. And that could have been so doggone powerful. That could have been a whole arc. But instead, 1 episode, then never matters again. Not substantially. It feels so hollow to dedicate an episode to a person that we're gonna toss to the wayside once she pops out a child, especially whenever they start getting 2 girls out of the way at once. It is underwhelming to say the least. Don't get me wrong, I liked all the girls to a degree. Some had designs or quirks that did stand out, but nothing that stuck, nothing that lasted. They were all just fast food characters. They came and went quickly, not fresh, and all created with grease from what came before. That leaves you with a weird taste in your mouth. Some were so undercooked that they felt unfinished, like someone microwaved a personality and then they just called it writing. And that goes double for the Star Children wasted potential. The Star Children should have been the heart of this story. I mean, think about it. Really think about it. These are magical offspring created through a ritual that is supposed to be important to this world and born to save that very world. That's as anime as it could be, right? So how could you screw that up? Oh, they found a way. There were moments early on that teased something deeper. Itsuki visiting the kids, standing up for them, treating them like actual kids that lived and breathed. That could have been the emotional core that would have added stakes in the battles that we should have been able to see. They could have had powers that reflected both the maiden and their father. They could have had personality quirks, maybe make certain pairings make unique team combos, strategy, emotional stakes. Maybe they even rebelled or got scared or asked questions about their existence. Something to make them feel like kids that actually impact the world around them. But no, they're just little units, right? They're identical, they're forgettable. I couldn't even tell you who belonged to which maiden by the end. They had no spark, no weight, just digital dolls dumped into a story that never let them matter. There was a point in the show when it teased something more. This was when the kids are first brought into a kind of conflict. They get turned into dolls to protect themselves when attacked, and then they have to retreat with Itsuki, learning from that experience, growing through conflict to grow up faster. Instead, they too are cast to the side for the comedy that isn't. Sometimes the show wants to be a parody, as I said at the beginning, and sometimes it wants to be an ecchi, and sometimes it wants to be genuine, but it never has the gonads to pick a frickin' lane. The result of that total rib trash is tonal whiplash. One scene feels like a self-aware spoof of the harem genre, the next tries to pull at your heartstrings, and then we jump into a sketch with a talking raccoon mascot who might be the most consistently annoying and yet entertaining part of the whole show, even though that entertainment comes at the cost of the lore that we are trying to build. But nothing, and I mean nothing, is as egregious as that episode. If you watch the show, then you know the one. The queerbait filler episode that promises a twist, teases tension, and ultimately does absolutely nothing. It adds no depth, no progression, and no real payoff. Just fake tension and "Teehee, isn't this spicy, you degenerates?" type of bait. It is filler in the worst way. It is insulting to your time and to your intelligence. It is using sexuality and sex appeal to draw you in instead of developing the characters that exist and actually improving this disaster of a series. In fact, this is where High School DXD wins. I know, this is kind of a curveball, but let me explain. High School DXD is the infamous fan service series that admittedly does have way more nudity and way more edgy content than Conception does, yet it somehow handles its story better. Why? Because DxD actually commits, whether that's for better or for worse is personal opinion, but from day one it builds a power system based on chess pieces. There are stakes, there's a hierarchy, there are risks. Issei starts off weak, dies in the first episode, yet he works for his upgrades, and when he wins, it feels earned. He's a pawn, the seemingly weakest piece on the board, until it gets to the other side and it no longer is. More importantly, the girls in DxD feel more like characters. They fight, they struggle, they grow, they bond with Issei over time, not over one and done episodes. It's still a harem, yes, but it's one where the relationships feel built. Even if they do start in Issei's favor more often than not, it has the benefit of allowing bonds to build over experience, something this show could have done as well if it didn't waste time on things like, 24 minutes of queerbaiting nonsense that we all knew wasn't going to amount to anything substantial at all, because it goes against the actual reason for the show to exist and how two men cannot conceive a child, obviously. I mean, oh, what a waste. I watched DxD back in middle school and I still remember character beats from that show. I never watched season 4, Born, I believe, because the art style change bothered me, but the 3 seasons that came before I can still remember some of even after all this time. Conception, however, I finished it yesterday and already forgot who half the cast was. No, that's actually being generous. I literally didn't remember the names of anyone besides Alfie, not even the main character whose name I already forgot since I talked about him earlier, which is wild, just like the fact that it never delivered. The show is called Conception. It is about giving life, forming bonds, saving the world, but it never gives anything at all. Not depth, not closure, not meaning. It is a hollow ritual, going through the motions without heart, commitment, or reward. Even the character arcs feel like they were made in some sort of character generator. You could swap the episodes around and lose almost nothing at all. The same kind of issue that the first 10 episodes of Earthspark had. If your serialized show can be watched out of order without it being noticeable, then you're doing something wrong. So would I recommend it? Honestly, not even as a show to watch in the background. The show is so disconnected and annoying at times that even just listening to it felt like a waste of brain cells. If you really want to try something similar, Tales of Wedding Rings has a similar setup and somehow does everything better, and that show's not even great, but at least it genuinely feels like it tries. It at least gives the girls time to be built into people with hopes and dreams beyond what their duties foretold. It gives them personality beyond pushing the plot forward, and even puts them in situations outside of their depth that they all respond to differently based on who they are as people. It adds a layer of complexity to the idea of being forced to marry or be with someone because of duty, and yet still choosing to be with someone because of love, and how that could be a conflict when having to take the feelings of multiple girls who had no choice of this life into consideration. It is not perfect, and it does stumble, but it also has a few deep conversations that blow this show out of the water in terms of writing. It has actual nudity instead of just teasing it. It has actual fights as meh as they can be, instead of just talking about what happened that we never get to see, which is kinda poetic. I mean, a show called Conception that doesn't deliver, not even on the climax. Because Conception isn't good bad, it isn't funny bad, it isn't so bad it's good. It's just bad. Bad enough to be boring, and in a medium like anime, that's kinda the worst sin of all. Subscribe, and for more news, reviews, and whatever we choose, stay tuned to Nerdsfeed. Have a great day, thank you.